What is going on, everyone? Anthony Drew Gary here, host of the How To Show, where we talk about optimizing life, money, and happiness one how to at a time. All right, we're getting nice and nerdy on this episode of the How To Show. We are going straight into Zoom and straight into Excel. And truth be told, we could do this with a pen and a piece of paper just as easily, but for the sake of interacting with the video, we're going to talk today about how to calculate net worth. And the reason I wanted to get into this episode is because I heard a really big misnomer this past week, and somebody said something, yeah, that person's a millionaire. They make $1 million a year. And I thought to myself, that is not what it means to be a millionaire. And rather than, spend any time correcting any one individual, I just decided that this would be a fun video to talk about how to calculate net worth. And it's really not as complicated as it might sound. This whole idea of net worth is this big, complicated calculation that whatever, only rich people do, or only people who are really old do. And that's not the case at all. So we can start to get into this calculation of net worth. And again, I want to do it from a point of view of Excel, but you could just as easily do this with a sheet of paper and a pencil or a pen. And really, you just need to know some facts about your financial life. And so we'll do this theoretically. We're not going to use my family's numbers. We're just going to make up numbers for each type of thing as we go along. And at the end of it, I'll show you the calculation, which is real simple to calculate net worth, and we'll get a number out of it. And this is something that you should be able to replicate if you just change the category some and put in your own numbers. You'll be able to calculate your net worth. So let's go ahead and get started. The way that we're going to do this is we're going to break things down into basically assets and liabilities. And so assets is anything you own, and liabilities is anything you don't. And we'll get to liabilities in a second, but we'll start with our assets. So we'll just title that. And so the first asset that you're gonna jump in there with is cash. And so this doesn't necessarily mean your piggy bank or the money in your wallet. It basically just means any money that you have that's liquid. And so that could be your checking account, your savings account, anything like that. Add it all together, and that's gonna be your cash line. And so after that, you're gonna have other lines in here. So let's go ahead and talk about your house. And this could go in one of two different ways. You could either own your house or you could rent. And generally speaking, you're only going to put the value of your house in there if you own it. And so we'll go through that in a second as well. Then we're going to think about retirement. And if you've got any sort of retirement accounts, we're going to line those out. And, there could be a slew of different options there. So let's plug in a 401k, and maybe there's an IRA involved in there as well. And so let's go ahead and keep this going. Let's say that maybe you got some stocks outside of retirement accounts. Maybe you've opened up a Robinhood account or M1 Finance, one of those sort of platforms, and you bought a share of Apple or a share of Coca-Cola along the way. So we'll make sure that those get counted. Then we'll go ahead and we'll plug in cars, vehicles, things like that. The way that I usually calculate this is basically what value do you want to assign to an asset that's going down in value? I would generally assign a value to it that that you could get rather quickly if you ever had to sell it. So if your car, maybe the blue book on your car is $5,000, maybe you assign $3,000 to $3,500, just a number that you knew you could get out of it real quick if you ever had to. And so the same thing, we're gonna do another line item here, and this is gonna be home furnishings. And the same sort of idea here. You don't want to throw in all the different throw pillows that you have on top of your couch, but if you've got some big ticket items in your life that you think have some value, you may want to throw those in there. And so let's go ahead and just start plugging in some numbers here. I'll format all these to plug in as dollar values. And so for assets, let's say this person has $1,500 in cash. Let's actually drop it in the cash line. So we've got $1,500 in cash. This person, we'll say they own their house. The house is worth $200,000. And in their 401k, maybe they've got $30,000 in their IRA. Maybe they just started that this year. Maybe it's a Roth IRA, and so they maxed it out this year, and so there's $6,000 in there. Additional stocks, maybe there's $500 in there. Cars, let's go ahead and use the example I talked about earlier. And so it's a $5,000 car, but we'll be safe and we'll plug in $3,500. And then home furnishings, let's say, you know, maybe across the entirety of their house, there's another $1,500 in there. And so when we drop that in there, we'll have a total for the assets. And so we'll just do a quick sum there. And so the total for all those items is $243,000. And so now we'll want to do the opposite with liabilities. And so what comes to mind here is basically anything that you have debt on. And so the things that come to mind quickly are credit cards, student loans. Those are common types of debts. If you've got a house, you probably have a mortgage on it. And so we'll plug that in there. If you've got a car, it's possible that you have a car loan. And then there could be any sort of other, you know, just one-off types of things that you owe. Maybe there's some medical debt, or maybe there's some personal debt. Maybe you borrowed money from somebody at some point prior and you need to pay that back. And so let's go ahead and plug in some numbers here the same way we did above. And so for credit cards, let's say that that you do your best to pay your credit card off every month. And so the balance for your credit card, maybe it's only a couple $100 right now. So we'll plug in 300 there. And for student loans, you're really working hard to pay those student loans off. And so maybe at this point you've got $10,000 left in your student loans. So on the mortgage, you know, the house is worth $200,000. Hopefully you're not upside down in your mortgage. You've got a situation where you owe less than it's worth. And so maybe your mortgage is $150,000. And that's $1.5 million. So let's redo that. Okay, so we got 150 there. So the car loan, if the car's worth 5, we think we could get 3.5 for it. Maybe there's $2,000 left on the car loan, some number like that. Medical bills, you know, maybe you broke a bone or something. You've got some outstanding medical debt there. So let's just throw in some medical debt. And then personal line item there. Let's say that maybe you bet that your team would win the Super Bowl and you lost that bet, and so now you owe $100 to your friend or something like that. And so we'll go ahead and we'll add all of those lines up as well. And so we get 163.4. And so we've got two key numbers, two numbers that I bolded here, the sum of all the assets and the sum of all the liabilities. And for the most part, unless you've got something really complicated in your life, calculating net worth really is this simple. It's taking everything that you own and subtracting it from everything that you owe. So we'll take that 243 and we'll subtract the 163.4. And so this hypothetical person has a net worth of $79,600. And so you can start to see here that, you know, when somebody, you know, back to the original example, that somebody that's a millionaire does not have a millionaire salary. They do not make $1 million a year. That's not what deems somebody a millionaire. What deems somebody a millionaire is if they have a net worth where their total assets minus their total liabilities equal $1 million. So let's just 10x everything we've got going on here. And so we'll multiply that by 10, and then we'll do the same thing to our assets. And we'll drag this cell over. We still don't get to that $1 million part, but you see where I'm going here. The more you're having assets as compared to the less you have in liabilities, that number will start to become to a point where you can reach that millionaire status. And so if this number were only $1 million, for example, that net worth would be $1.4 million. So real quick back of the envelope type of calculation for calculating net worth. Probably the hardest part about this is that you have to know what number to put in for all of these different lines. And so that means you've got to have a decent idea of what your balances are in different, you know, accounts, or what your balances are in terms of what you owe. And so if this is something that you've not done within the past couple of years, maybe it's a good exercise to go back and just give yourself a checkup on this so that you know that you've got a plan in place, that you know what all your assets are, you know what all your liabilities are. And if your situation is not the way you want it right now, you start to work a plan so that you can change it and improve it. That's going to bring this episode of the show to a close. Hopefully that exercise was worthwhile, and if you made it to this point in the video, you learned something, or you took something away from that video that you can use in your own life. And if that's true for you, it's probably true for somebody else. So feel free to share this video with friends, family, or on your social media platform, however you do that. And if you want to be the first to know about new content each and every Wednesday as it comes out, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and you'll be the first to know when those videos come out. And if you've got an idea for a future topic or any sort of comments for this episode, go ahead and leave me a comment. I will respond to those. I have a good time doing it, and look forward to your comment. So, until next time, this is Anthony Drew Gary, host of The How To Show, signing off.